There are two movements we'll be talking about that come out of the Enlightenment. The first of them, the Rococo movement. You see that word Rococo on the screen there. That word Rococo is one of those words that always looks like it's misspelled to me. I always want to put another C in there somewhere, but that's the way the word is spelled. That word is also a lot like the word Baroque in that I'm not sure that today we really know what that word Rococo means or how it got stuck to this movement, what it really refers to. So don't get too worked up about that word Rococo itself. Recognize the word and know that the word refers to the movement we're going to be looking at. And a good place to at least begin starting to move towards the Rococo movement is if you go with me in your textbook to page 92. Head towards page 92 in your textbook. There we go. On page 92, you will see, I'm ashamed to say, the first error that I know about in the textbook, which is entirely my fault. That is figure 14.1 on page 92, which, if you look carefully, is not the one you see on the screen here. The one in your textbook we'll catch up to in a minute. Actually, the name of that painting in your textbook is Return from Cythera. As you look at the two paintings, the one in your textbook and the one on the screen, maybe you'll cut me some slack and see how I got confused on this page here. Well, that's why we have the pilot edition to work out some of these kinks, and we'll get this one worked out by the time for the first edition. Anyway, let's start on the screen. The artist here, Watteau, you see his name in the caption, at least for figure 14.1. Watteau's Pilgrimage to Cythera, which you see on the screen. A group of people have chartered a boat and sailed to Cythera, the mythical island birthplace of Venus, the Roman goddess of love. Over here on the screen, you see, there we go. You see a sculpture of Venus over here. There we go. My cursor's not quite working right again. There. Over here you see a statue of Venus. The couples have made the trip for no other reason than to sit on the hillside and make out with each other. You see the loving couple sitting on the hillside there. And if you look carefully, no, you've already seen them, little baby angels hover in the air above the loving couples over here. Little baby angels playing peekaboo on this sculpture of Venus. And little baby angels down here climbing around on something. I don't know. That's weird. And you'll notice that over here they've woven themselves into the netting on the ship. If you look a little more carefully here, the next slide. There we go. We see the little baby angels have accompanied them on this journey. But alas, all good things must come to an end, and now we have Return from Cythera, which is what you have in your textbook mislabeled at figure 14.1 on page 92. Watteau's Return from Cythera. But now it's time to leave. The loving couples gather themselves and make their way back to their ships, where the little baby angels are gathering to accompany them back home from this trip. It's a good start, a good introduction to the Rococo movement. Also on that page, page 92, you have figure 14.2 on page 92, who shares Cupid, a captive. The girls have finally gotten their hands on Cupid. They've tied him up with flowers. Ropes they've woven from flowers. My goodness. Whatever might happen next. And if you look carefully, you'll see over here a little statue of two baby angels doing something, I don't know. And little baby angels up here hovering in the sky, looking down on this frankly erotic scene here. Across the spread on page 93, you have figure 14.4 on page 93. Fragonard's this is figure 14.3 on page 92. Figure 14.3 on page 92. Fragonard's love letters. And all I had to do is look at the painting and see what's going on here. You see where the guy, he wrote his girlfriend a love letter, and then he gave it to her in person so he could watch her face while she read it. Isn't that the sweetest thing you've seen all day? Oh my goodness. Be still, my heart, or my stomach, or something down there. And up here, you see yet another statue of Venus and a little baby angel reaching upward as if to have a better viewpoint on the loving scene as it unfolds. On page 93, now on page 93, figure 14.4. On page 93, Fragonard's The Swing. You see the young woman, she's on the swing. She has an older servant over here swinging her on the swing, but her boyfriend's hiding in the bushes. And oh my goodness, he gets to look up her skirt, and she's kicking her shoe off at him. Oh my goodness gracious. And over here are little statues of little baby angels playing love songs on the guitar, and a little baby angel up here holding his finger up to his lips. Shh, don't tell anybody. Something secret's going on here. Oh my goodness. On that same page, figure 14.5, moving to the British Rococo, where things are a bit more restrained. Gainsborough's Haymaker Boy and Sleeping Mushroom Girl. Oh, come on. Here you have this guy. He's been working in the hayfield all day. Here's the young woman. She's been out in the woods gathering mushrooms. Both these people look awfully clean and well spruced up for having been engaged in this activity. And oh, she's been so sleepy out in the woods gathering her mushrooms. And the young man comes along and finds her and gazes upon her beauty. Well, that's a good look at the Rococo movement in painting. We can see the Rococo movement in architecture at the bottom of page 93, figure 14.6. Balthasar Nerman, the architect here, and the Wiesenhagen Pilgrim Church. You have a different photograph in your textbook, figure 14.6, the bottom of page 93. Well, it's a pretty fancy church. There's an awful lot of things here to look at. And you'll be able to see this in your textbook photograph, but if you look right where the wall, right along this line where the wall starts to become the ceiling, where the wall starts to curve up and become the ceiling, if you look very carefully, you'll see little baby angels up there gazing down on the congregation. You'll be able to see them in your textbook photograph once you know what they kind of look like. Well, there we've got a good introduction to the Rococo movement. The Rococo movement is kind of frilly and fancy. Frivolous? How about frivolous? Meaning not very serious and fancy and frilly and just not very serious. Frivolous. It's kind of floofy. I just made that word up, so I don't quite know how to spell it yet, but you know what I mean? Romantic with a small r. I say that because in a few, actually very quickly, we're going to be talking about the Romantic movement, and that's using the word romantic in a different sense. But romantic in the sense you think I mean, falling in love with somebody, hugging and kissing, that kind of romantic. Sometimes erotic. And little baby angels all over the place. If you like little baby angels, you're in the right place, because there are little baby angels all over the place. I got nothing against little baby angels. I'm just saying if you like little baby angels, then the Rococo movement is for you. Now, let's start to move towards the big deal. Whose values are being portrayed in the Rococo movement? Are these the values of the aristocracy? Are the values of the middle class? Well, it's the views of the aristocracy. I mean, who goes to church in this church? The butcher and the baker and the candlestick maker are the dukes and the duchesses, the lords and the ladies, and those kind of people. Who has such an unrealistic view of farm life? Do you think the middle class who probably grew up on farms really realize really think that people are this clean after doing this kind of work? The setting here is all from the aristocracy. Is going back to Fragonard's love letters. Is this the guy who owns the fish market in town, taking the afternoon off to spend with his girlfriend? No, it's an aristocrat. Look at that costuming and the setting and so on. Is this the Elks Lodge out on an outing? No, these are aristocrats. So the Rococo movement is demonstrating the values of the aristocracy. But there's one other movement going on in the 1700s, which is a very different movement, and that's what we're going to be looking at next.